you come up second to Becky, and this Saturday, bro, you're gonna come up second to me. Oh, you wanna go? Come on, you wanna go right at me? I'm like you really like it. You're ready on the next Saturday.
Hello, Daniel.
All right. Good luck already. We have had to watch you two whine, argue, and complain for months. We've had enough. Your behavior has been insane, and we are tired of foolishness. From parking lots to arenas, you two have fought all around the world. And for all the people looking on, who is this guy? I'm Daniel Cormier. I'm one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. I am the double champion. Matt, listen, bro, we go way back. You're a former UFC fighter, and I respect that. You're a part of the fraternity. Seth, you know that from afar, I've always admired Jose Sinclair. When you won that first world championship, the man celebrated. But as the whole world is fed up, I too am fed up. Someone told me that you two are competing in a fight pit match Saturday at Extreme Rules. Well, I'm into that. That's my world. I live in the game. I love it. But one thing I do know is there has to be a third man. It can't be any old referee. So you know who they call? They call your boy BC. To come down and lay down the law to make sure that only one of you walk out of the fight pit victorious. And we put an end to this. That's exactly what I plan to do. So now it's time to stop yapping, train hard, train smart, and I'll see both of you guys Saturday in Philadelphia.
If you went back tomorrow, who's the guy you want to go against?
Well, I don't know. If I went back tomorrow, I'd want to reconnect Arcade Bro up, give Randy back a little break, Oh, dude, well, dude, his nutritionist. What a guy. Randy's nutritionist. This goes off to you.
You know who that is?
No.
Okay.
I'm not gonna speculate either. I don't think that's gonna help anything. So, great. Can we just say that? He looks great.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a that's Keith look.
He looks big. Looks better than Big Boss.
What's up, sir?
What's up, this up? So,
I'm late
so
to
let's
this
talk
head. Cut
about
my yard and take care of this business.
Goldberg beef. So with that being said, so you and Goldberg y'all met up at behind stage WWE that went viral towards those conversations. What was the initiation of the Goldberg stuff of your comments, and then when you met up, how was it? I'm not unhappy or dislike Goldberg. Let's get that cleared up. But I really like, he's got audience. Guy's a stallion in the ring. Guy's good. I respect it. It's part of this business, right? It's not just hitting a fear and hurting people and saying to the man and getting booked a certain way. It's about always taking care of each other. It's about someone or not do something publicly or headbutt his door and give himself a concussion and botch everything. I'm gonna kind of bust the balls a little bit. And with the initial action,
people on PS5. These sides.
I think after taking Saudi, I was in NXT, I felt like I had to say something. I was some talent. And then I ran into a believer at a SummerSlam years later. Yeah, right? Yeah. And Bill wasn't happy about it, at that day. There's that one skit that's caught on camera. Then we ran into each other again, but we had a longer talk. And he basically said I was very disrespectful by saying what I said. And I go, I don't think I was. Then he goes, how do you think it? I go, because I wasn't lying. I go, then he goes, well, my bank account? He's like, no, I bet it is. I don't think I'll ever have a bank account the size of Bill Goldberg's. But I don't know he's ever going to go back in time to see that superstar match on a wrestling classic of Bill Goldberg. They might want a compilation of spears and jackhammers, but no one's going back to watch that 15-minute bar burn with Bill, And he wasn't happy with that either. We didn't talk for a while, but then we reconnected on a trip to Saudi. He was wrestling there, and we talked on the airplane ride home after a couple Bloody Marys, and we were stuck on an airplane there. And I wouldn't say we're best friends, but I think we see eye to eye on a lot more things now. And Well, relationship's not that bad.
Could we see a match between the two of you?
I would love that. I know I'm affordable. I don't know how much they'll cost. Like I said, his bank account's way bigger than mine. They'll probably be a little more than me. But yeah, I'm always up for anything, dude. And I think we would have a great match. So, yeah.
Orgullosamente latino.
somebody invites you to something different.
We do. I asked people, including 4 teams of LAX, because they would smash a girl with colonoscopy, and I was surprised that 80% of the guys told me she was fine. Yes. Yes. That is absolutely fine. I agree, man. I haven't changed that. I mean, if it's very small, discreet, and nothing's leaking, you don't even know. But you know. You already, you have it prevented. So, we know about things called chartable, yes, that I always go to, that
try to get 2 more people in.
We also have a almost 8-year catalog of it. The show's 8 years old, but the catalog is coming down. That's going to Patreon for January. So we've got a 7.5-year catalog of our show, all the stuff that made it what it is today, but how the disco has started, the rare segments, classic, the producer of the show, also shit questions, a segment. You'll love this if you're a hardcore fan. You'll love it for the reason why our subscription keeps going. Also this week on SPU, we rehash
I don't like
the
this.
show running over the best of the last 7.5 years. And this week we put something out for talking about TMNT, disco, we had a lot of notes. Also, we've got K100 Talks, where we pick a political, pop culture, sports topic of the week, and we break it down. K100 Sports and the K100 Mailbag, all of them doing great numbers due to your patronage. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions for the mailbag or anything for the musical submissions, for the musical selection with your producer, you play an instrument, you support a band or a person, please send those to k100questions@gmail.com. Make the letters short so we can read a grip of them. You know our stilo, bro. We always over-deliver, whether it's on our extra shows, main show, or Patreon. We've also got a very popular YouTube channel manned by Hughley the Howard Slush, which I will not do a show, not on his birthday or a national holiday, but I did say that if he gets to 60,000 subscribers, and we're getting very close to that, 59,910, I'm going to make I'm going to make a cameo on his show, which is now deemed a mini cameo.
You know that he's preparing an opening thing with you that he thinks is going to be funny,
Right.
but it's not going to be funny, and it's going to cause you to, it's going to have to be the shortest cameo ever you get to do it. This is really just, yeah.
That's why I registered the word mini cameo. So we've got these people have joined the YouTube. Thank you very much for your support. His name is JNCDYZKIA48. He just rejoined. Manny Armenta, Antonio Fair just rejoined. Dale Corey, Sanford just rejoined. Why did you guys leave in the first place? Well, nobody's answered me that yet. Spanky Schmidt, Handsome Lee, he also rejoined. And our current YouTube count is almost at 51 million. Joe's manning the ones and twos. You can follow the show and everything that's going on K100 Conan on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. He puts up future guests, stuff that me and this host has, and other interesting tidbits to keep you informed. We've also got JJ Claxton and Chris Mason handling on biz on TikTok. Yeah, don't stop. I want to fix you up. I like it a lot. Tremendous. We should go on tour visit that. Love it.
Hey, this is Impact Hall of Famer Gail Kim, and you're listening to Keeping It 100 with my boy Conan, and that sometimes chauvinistic, the Disco Inferno.
Hey, this is the bad boy, Joey Janelle, and you're listening to another edition of Keeping It 100 with Conan. Wait, what? You guys still have Disco Inferno? Come on, you guys are better than that. There's about 700, maybe 7,000 people that are better suited than the Disco Inferno. What are you going to do? It ain't my podcast.
Living a business makes your life a big job, but OnDeck Small Business Loans can help keep you afloat. With lines of credit up to $100,000 and term loans up to...
That means you earn.
Just today, right? But you watch the way they work, and just see if you feel me on this. It's very complicated. Like their matches are, there's like a million things going on. You know, there's not like a lot of just basic wrestling 101. It's like just they're doing like a million things. Then you had a guy like Cody, who he's kind of like in the principles of, hey, let's just be basic out here or something. you look at where AEW started 5 years ago, okay, and look at where they are now. Look at where Cody started 5 years ago, and Kenny, and the Bucks and those guys. Fast forward 5 years and look where Cody is now, and Kenny is now, and the Bucks is done. I think it's a perfect, it's a perfect advertisement. And for the simplicity of wrestling is what gets you to the next level. If you're really good at all of the basics and all the simplicity and working of the style where you're not risking injury, you're not getting hurt, your shoulder's not blown out, stuff. Bro, what do you think? Do you think there's something to that? Like, do you think Kenny and Will go overboard too much in the matches? Is what I'm trying to think. Because I think they can wrestle a simpler style. They choose to wrestle a complicated style.
We need one more person.
If you watch like their match at Forbidden Door that they had when he
like they're coming,
his head or whatever, the Tiger Driver, I feel like up front they kept it pretty basic. Now, granted, their pretty basic is still a lot more advanced than most people. Right. So instead of doing just a basic tactical drop down, like they're going to do 10 other things and get to their standoff spot as opposed to what I would do with you per se. But I also think that's what you're buying when you go to watch that match. Like the Young Bucks, like their gimmick is that and the way I look at it, their gimmick is that they're not traditional wrestlers. Like they are going to, where they probably should finish the match, they're going to go another 15 minutes after. Right. And they're going to do it in the sense of like, that's what you're paying for. Like you're paying to watch the Young Bucks and know that all the ring psychology that you thought by reading the dirt sheets you learned, it just goes completely out the window. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah, they're just trying to get pops. Because the first time basically this guy that was my young boy in Tijuana when I used to do shows there back like 20 years ago, Ron Rivera, he was their trainer.
Okay.
So I almost think like the Young Bucks, when I watch them, they just want to get pops, okay? And you do pop at the whole match because they're very creative and entertaining.
Right.
I remember one time I went to this autograph session that Petty, the Fugitive Heart, did in Stampede, and the Young Bucks were there, and they had their own table. Bro, the line was through the door because they took the time to talk to everybody and make them feel special instead of shuffling them through, you know? And I always admired them for that. And like even when they came to Mexico, they were always doing creative stuff and killing it and easy to work with. But I will say this, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I may be misclassifying your fan base, I almost feel like your fan base is full of a lot of like nerds and geeks, and I don't say that in a demeaning way. Nerds and geeks, and I have a lot of friends that are both. And at the same time, like hardcore fans that just want to see good wrestling, kind of like Tony does. Mm-hmm. Where the WWE seems to have more casual fans, and their hardcore fans are already used to that style. But guys like Orton and Roman and Miz and Cody, they prove that you don't have to do a million things to get over, But like you said, that crowd will not accept Will Ospreay just doing a basic Randy Orton match. They bring him in because he's probably the most spectacular wrestler in the world. Him, Vikingo, Ricochet. Once they let him loose, if he does go to AEW, I mean, I just thought in WWE, he's already been released, correct?
Yeah, I think okay.
Bro, I thought that I managed him in Lucha Underground, plus I recommended him to Lucha Underground from PWG. Mm-hmm. That guy's amazing, and he wasn't even doing anything in WWE what he could really do.
So I think, the Bucks, their biggest thing is, like Cody, like Roman, they connect with the audience, right? And they did it through their YouTube channel, they do it, like you said, just talking to people. That's where the younger talent, I think, messes up in the fact that they take for granted what the Young Bucks went through to get to where they are, what Kenny went through to get to where he is. So I think like Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson, they didn't do a lot. I mean, towards the back end, they did some cool swerve stuff, but ideally they really didn't do it. And that's because the people were already ready for it. To go back to your question about our fan base, yeah, I believe our fan base is much more intelligent than just the casual fan, so they do expect a higher quality. But I found this, so while you weren't here, I think that the fan base is just so excited to not be at WWE, and that's kind of what it was in the beginning. It was like we got away with a lot of stuff because they were very forgiving in the sense like, thank God we're not at a WWE show where the wrestler's going to be in the ring for 30 minutes before the opponent comes out because we got to sit through a commercial break and 2 pre-tapes and blah, 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 right? So I think we had you know, we were fortunate in that matter that we can kind of play off of those things. I always try to make the joke, but I'm serious. Like, I wish our fans just had no friends. You know what I mean? And like, instead of just
they're an anti-social group of people, kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people, you know, like.
Well, the thing is, you go back and watch Nitro, right? When the wrestlers are coming out, like along the rails, like the fans are like. They're going crazy. They want to be seen on camera. They're trying to get a shot. It's like the AEW, but even WWE called somewhat. You know, the fans are like kind of like they're kind of scared to, like, when the camera's on them.
I think a lot of them. Would I be wrong to say a lot of them are like socially awkward? No.
Yeah, I mean, they're just they're very timid. Like when we go to the airport, right, and there's collectors there. Even the collectors, like. They're like emotionless. They just stare at you and it's like, dude, just say hi. Like, I'm not mad at you for wanting to make crap. You know what I mean? Like, but don't be weird. That's the weird, like, don't be and I get it if you're socially awkward, if you're intimidated, but like, yeah, we all put our pants on the same way. And I think that's just the way the world is.
If you had to classify
wrestling,
if you had to classify, they're just a product of society, and society like that in general. Yeah. But, you know, it isn't like the 90s, or the 90s was such a wild time. And
you have all these artistic types now that are, you know, everyone's an artist and everyone's very like, they just, like I said, it's like when I walk through an arena or I'm leaving and I see the fans, like, if they just said, QT, can I take a picture with you? But they're just so, like, put off, like, I don't want to say weird, they're just weird, but like, it's like, dude, just turn around and say hi, man. Like, I'm not going to fight you. You know?
That's right.
Now, before Disco asks, because I'm very interested in this, because I may be wrong, and that's what I want to be rectified.
Okay.
When I say that the fan base, not in a demeaning or minimizing anybody, is nerd, geek, hardcore fans, am I right or am I off topic? And you tell me what your fan
No, I think nerd culture has taken over wrestling as opposed to the jacked up MMA guys, right? Like the Affliction shirts, that kind of went to MMA because it was tough and it wasn't. Because what happened was wrestling used to be really cool, and then we exposed it as an industry so much that it's so hard. Like if I go to a bar and wrestling's on, why does someone have to sit next to me? Like, you know that's fake, right? Like, no shit, motherfucker. Like, of course I know it's fake. Like, I don't do it.
But you know what my answer to that is, QT? Very simple. You do know that Iron Man doesn't fly. You do that Spider-Man doesn't throw webs, but they do good numbers because people are entertained. Are you entertained?
Right. So,
yes or no?
And that's my biggest thing about the wrestling I like. I think it's just a matter of the person that sits next to me that will try to give me every reason why they shouldn't watch. Right. And I'll ask them, like, all right, well, what do you think what do you think is, like, insulting you watching this? Oh, my God, the way the guy forearms the other guy 30 times and nothing happens. It's like, okay, well, I can either, one, explain it to them, well, this is a stronger style or whatever, or I can just say, hey, you know what, students, like, let's try not to do that. Just throw a fake punch. It's okay. Like, people know it's wrestling.
You know that in Mexico, QT, fans were coming up to each other. I saw this many times. And even relatives of the wrestlers in the dressing room, they would come up to each other and pretend to hit them and slap each other. And I go, bro, do you see that they're making fun of you? And you still keep doing it on TV?
Yeah. That's I think, like I said, if you can think about from an outsider's perspective that doesn't like wrestling, how can we bring them in? A lot of it, sometimes it could be like what I think AEW is great at, is just telling people, like, hey, this is some of the coolest crap you're ever going to see.
Y'all want to learn from
they don't try to, you know, poke holes in it.
Y'all want to learn how to do this.
Oh, this is going to be the coolest spectacle of wrestling. Right? Like, don't tell them it's going to be the greatest work that you're ever going to see, because sometimes you might get a match that doesn't have that, right? So I think, yeah, like, again, there's a lot that could be, you know, misconstrued and stuff, but definitely nerd culture has taken over because I've seen it with the students.
Let me give you a perfect example. Okay?
And here's the thing that you did not see when I broke into the business with disco. Dude, you saw zero LGBTQ, and you see it a lot now.
Yeah, well, I think it's just more socially acceptable.
Again,
okay, let's do it, y'all.
Society.
I'm gonna give you. I just thought of this one.
Damn it, you son of a bitch!
So, you know, AEW, like, the inception was kind of, they took, so non-WWE wrestling I've always considered as like, you know, it's, ever since WCW has gone, is independent wrestling, right?
Sure.
So AEW took like all the best elements of independent wrestling and threw it on the main stage. But independent wrestling, bro, the independent scene, when you're not in WWE and you're making money, bro, it's the Comic Cons.
Correct.
You know, like so when you married your audience to the comic book crowd audience, that's the audience that we took and brought with us, you know, to put on TV on the main stage. And it's an indie wrestling crowd, it's a Comic Con crowd, right? And so now AEW is like, they have that crowd because that's indie wrestling. That's where we go to autograph signings, Comic Cons or whatever. So, but now it's like you have that crowd, and it's like, okay, what do we do to expand outside this crowd? Because this crowd, it's like, as I'm saying, because that crowd is a very difficult crowd to attract people outside those genres, comic books and wrestling. You know?
Yeah, of course. I think a lot of it is, you know, again, they don't really have like, okay, so for instance, in high school, I had a lot of friends, right? But out of all of those friends, I only had 2 that I would watch wrestling with. And the 2 that I watched wrestling with were very mad at me when I would go to parties on a Monday night, and I wouldn't watch Raw with them. And it was like, well, I'm 16, 17, I'm trying to, you know, like, I'll still watch it, I just don't want to, you know, like, revolve my life around it, right? And like, so some of those people like myself end up growing out of it, and then you start doing other stuff. Whereas I always was into it. I just wasn't going to put that before real life, right? And some of these people, they this is their life, and that's fine. But like, I don't know. It's just, I think that because there's a huge fan base for comic books. There just is. There's a huge. So I almost thought like, why don't we try to look for the conventions and piggyback our shows off of them? And you know, there's ways to do stuff like that. But again, the fan base is just completely different. And I noticed it with the students. Because back in the day, I was like the small guy at 6 foot, 240 pounds. And all my students are, a lot of them are huge. It's very rare that we get these athletic, like, you know, these guys that are like, yeah, the physicality. It's like, well, what's your my character? They already have their character ready. Like, they haven't even stepped in the ring yet, and they're telling me how they're going to be a goblin that came from outer space, and I'm like, you can't. That insults people, right? Like, even Chris Statlander, when she first started, she kept telling me about being an alien, and I was like, why don't you just be Chris Statlander and have like, you know, you could be a fan of aliens and a fan of comics and all this stuff, but just be you. Because it's hard. You can't connect with everybody. And if I'm into wrestling. Like, I used to manage restaurants, all these things. So I can cook a cheeseburger, and it could be the greatest cheeseburger in the world, right? Like, and it's going to take 30 minutes to prep every burger. But that fan base that's going to come for that burger, that's going to write reviews about it, is going to only have about 6 or 7 people. Whereas if I just make the McDonald's burger, I might sell billions of burgers. And it all is about what I care. What do I, again, going back to like what I was saying about AEW, what are we trying to do? And I think only Tony really knows that vision. And I don't even ask the question anymore, because it's like, that's not my job. My job is just to find out what he wants the day of the, that day or the week before, whatever, and make it happen. Because at the end of the day, like, I hear people say about, oh, he just looks for what he wants. Okay, so if that's what he wants to do, who gives a crap? He's putting all these people under under contract and stimulating the economy. Like, at the end of the day, if that's what he wants, again, do I have to agree with it? No, but I mean, if he's paying me, I'm going to do my best to make sure he gets everything he wants, because that's my job.
Yeah, that's the best way of looking at it. But I just want to ask you one question before I forget. What would you say, QT, are the biggest, or maybe 1 or 2 biggest misconceptions about AEW?
That the inmates run the asylum, right, like fully, right? And I'll explain that. So that's one thing, right? And then 2, again, I think it's that I'm just trying to think of what I hear all the time.
Right, or you read, or whatever.
Or I read, yeah. I mean,
well, he's human, by the way, it's trying to put that in. He doesn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, like I said, the biggest thing.
Oh, no, but if it's a misconception, he has a chance to correct it.
Yeah, I mean, the inmates running the asylum thing, right? Like, okay, so there's talent that definitely talk to Tony, and they've earned that right to speak to him. Also, there's talent that probably haven't, in my opinion, earned the right to talk to Tony, but his open door policy is almost too open, right? But he'll listen to them, and he'll, sympathize with them and empathize, and then he'll make the best decision for the show. But ideally, like, again, I think a lot of talents look in the mirror and see what they could be later on, right? Like, I think I could be The Rock, right? And I'm just using that as an example. But I should start by being whatever the fan sees first. And then, once we're on the same page, we can take them on whatever ride we want, right? Like, and I only learned that not too long ago from someone else. But it's true, right? Like, I look at myself and think, man, I could probably be a top guy. I might be able to, but as of right now, I'm this guy that is friends with Cody and blah, blah, blah. Like, let's start there and kind of move on. But I think when it goes to the inmates running the asylum, like, yeah, they do have some, you know, say when they come up with stuff, but it's not always going to just say yes, right? Like, even all the way to Chris Jericho, like, they'll say something and Tony will say, well, no, we're not going to do that because this is going on and X, Y, and Z. And Chris will say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or he's going to try to fight it. And when I say fight it, I mean he's going to, I always say fight, but in the sense of, I know we should always try to fight a battle every time you're at work, right? And this way you never go home unhappy. At least you tried. And there's a lot of talents that don't try. And they're just worried. And then they probably are the ones that go to the dirt sheets and say, X person gets whatever they want. Like, MJF writes his own stuff with Tony. It's like, MJF probably does talk to Tony a lot about this stuff. But also, like, he produces, and he does really well. And the moment he doesn't, I'm sure he's going to lose all of that, because I've seen that happen too, where a talent tries to do their stuff and it doesn't work.
How funny is this, QT? So I'm sure you were there when this happened, but you weren't in Las Vegas. So the first time I ever appeared in AEW, Chris invited me to come out of limousine, and there was like a lot of smoke, like we're smoking weed.
Right? Oh yeah, for the hangover thing when they were doing the inner circle stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I remember when I came back and I was telling Disco, you know, I was putting over Chris, because he's always been a smart guy, even in WCW, right? And he was producing basically the whole thing.
Sure.
But there was one guy, and this is before MJF ever even made it big. I said there was one guy, and plus I knew MJF from MLW, so I already knew how talented he was.
Yeah.
But I said there was one guy that was soaking up everything like a sponge, was listening, was giving, and it was QT, MJF, right? And I also think that, you know, yeah, I mean, MJF can't just go on TV and do whatever he wants without Tony saying okay, but he kind of got himself over, you know, by himself in a way.
Sure.
So why would you fix something if it isn't broken? If this guy was able to produce himself and come up with his gimmick and his catchphrases and all that, you know, so you give him latitude.
Correct. And I think it's a matter of, I mean, even when I did my program with Paul White, which was a very low priority program, right? It was me and Paul, we were just going to get to the pay-per-view. He wanted to have his first match on the pay-per-view, and I feel like he's earned that right as being Paul White. But, you know, it was me that he was in there with, and we're here to here, right? So, but even then it was like, hey, Paul, let's sit down, let's try to come up with a reason for having this match, let's try to create a story out of it, and then I'm going to go to Tony, and I'm going to show him what we come up with, and then it's really a matter of, okay, do we have the TV time to do this? Because I do have to, there's a structure to wrestling, right? And as much as it hurts to hear it sometimes, yeah, MJF will get more TV time than I'm going to get, and sometimes people don't understand that, and they get upset, and it's like, again, I like having the job of letting them know, like, hey, then get over more than that person, and then you could do whatever, you know, all those things. But even that storyline was, again, Tony saying, hey, I don't think we could do that in ring, we might have to do it backstage, and it only could be this long, but I'll let you guys do your stuff, but let's work on it together now that I have a basic outline, because, again, that's what I love about AEW, honestly. Like, as much as people are going to say, we don't have the 50 writers that all have their own, you know, hey, I have this 5 talents, you have these 5 talents, so you do kind of have to come up with some of your own stuff. And again, the hardest part about getting your stuff on TV is the fact that most people are too scared to ask. Like, just ask. Like, the worst that's going to happen. And there's not a lot of alpha males in wrestling anymore like there used to be. No, I mean, MJF is an alpha male. He will, he's very, hey, you know, and I'm not mad at him for it. We all should be, because at the end of the day, like I said,
you have to be, bro. Or
yeah, what's the worst that's going to happen? He's going to say
no. You get walked over and you get looked over.
Building a business may feel like a big job, but On-Deck Small Business Loans can help keep you afloat. With lines of credit up to $100,000 and term loans up to...
That means you...
He knows how I was. If they weren't doing nothing with me, I was like, why aren't you doing anything with me? And you tell me you don't have an idea, I have an idea.
Correct.
And I always had work.
That's the thing. If you just so MJF, I use him as an example just because.
Yeah.
One, he's proven himself, and two, he is non-stop calling me, pitching stuff, coming up with ideas, trying to figure out if I know about person X being in a storyline already because he has an idea to do something like. Again, he's gonna go to Tony, but I'm kind of filtering to kind of let him know what, so this way he doesn't waste his time. You know what I mean? But like at the end of the day,
let's try to get 2 more people.
If you have the option of going to the boss. Like, how many people would love to go right now to Triple H and be able to pitch all their stuff? And if he has that kind of policy with them, why wouldn't he do that? I mean, that's absurd to not ask. Because worse, it's going to happen.
That's the guy that makes the decisions.
Yeah, they're going to say no, and then once they say no, you ask them why. Like, okay, not in a sense of like why. It's more or less, okay, so what? Why is there an objection? Oh, well, that person is going to be doing blah blah blah. Oh, okay, so it's the person. So I just got to find a different person. Yes. Or sometimes it's, hey, also, it could be, hey, I don't see you in that role. I just don't see you winning the world title. Like, that's okay, but how can I get there then? And then it's a matter of, well, you got to do this. And unfortunately, because it's not, I don't say it's not real, but it's not real. It's not like baseball where if I hit 50 home runs, I'm on the team and I'm starting.
Right.
So you just have to figure out, and believe it or not, John Cena was at the school. There was a Cody, and he was talking to the kids. And we went in the office, and he was talking to Cody about some stuff, and he asked me, like, hey, I know you work for the other company, but, like, is there anything I could, answer for you? And I was like, yeah, I'm just a little, like, I'm a VP, but also, like, of course I want to wrestle. And he just said, just ask your boss what he wants. And if you give him what he wants, there's nothing you can worry about, because you're doing what he asked you to do. And if it's something that you genuinely feel strongly about, that you don't want to do it, or you have another idea, then do it. Just know that you're on the hook, right? And if it doesn't work, you're on the hook. And some people just have, and like I said, I mean, it really makes sense in the sense of, I know when I want something from my wife, I just gotta give her what she wants first, right? Like, life isn't that hard. It's just when you sit there and you're not talking to anyone because you're introverted and you're going through your own head about all these things that I think they're mad at me and I think this, and it's like, well, just ask them.
Well, let me ask you this. Well, when this trend happened, because we'll get you out of here soon, because we've given us over an hour. Thank you so much for your time. But
my wife's in New Jersey, so.
Let me ask you this. When did you see that? How long have you been in the business now? Since what year did you start?
It's 20 years. Yeah.
20 years. Bro, when did you see the trend in the locker room of, bro? Because when I came into the business, and everybody did this when I broke in the 90s, but all the way through the rest of the time in 2008. You walk in a locker room, every chance you can. Yeah. What happened to that? Like, when did you see that trend started? Like maybe getting all these, maybe it's the thing of getting all these kind of introverted younger people in the business, and there's not a lot of alpha males in the business anymore. People kind of shy. I don't know, but that's the weirdest thing to me. I go to shows today, and I walk up they just stand there. I'm like, hey, I'm good. Nice to meet you. So what's your name? I don't see them.
And I think this is why I love the idea that all classes are like, especially day one. I'm going to give away some secrets. Day one, first thing I'll say is, okay, this way, when you first started, who was your favorite wrestler?
You like that part?
Okay. So Cody would say, when I want you to treat every single person you meet in wrestling like they're Roddy Piper. You do that, it'll go a long way for your career, right? So when and I thought about it, I was like, man, no one ever said that to me growing up. So I used to look at certain talents like they are on the screen, and then, you know what I mean? And people have done that to me, and it's like, you have no idea I'm flying on the jet with Tony after this shit. And you're treating me like I'm some piece of crap, and I'm not a piece of crap. Like, yeah, on TV I get beat in 30 seconds, but that doesn't mean I can't help you change your career if you treat me the right way.
And trust me. I get the jobber, relevant.
Yeah,
I get come on.
On TV, that might be my role, but at the end of the day, I'm a human, right? So like learning that, and again, I always say, out of all the money I ever spent in wrestling school, I've learned more from just hanging around Cody and Billy Gunn, and that's the other thing. Back in the day, you didn't go to a school, you got broken in by somebody, and that person would take you with them, and they would talk to you and teach you all of these nuances of like, hey, make sure you shake everybody's hand and be respectful, and it's like, if you're not there on the class where we teach you that, I might not go over it again, and then all of a sudden you make
watch out, girl.
I think a lot of it is people intimidated, right? Because they're going to go up to me and shake my hand because I'm wearing switch pants and a Under Armour polo, as opposed to they might not want to shake, MJF's hand because he's walking around, he looks like he's in his head, but then you actually go to shake his hand, he's the nicest person. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's definitely the people, right, on their own, with just being introverted and so on and so forth. And then a lot of it is wrestling schools. They've never done these things. Because at the end of the day, like, why would Derek Jeter open up a baseball school? He doesn't have to. He's a multi-millionaire. He don't need to train kids how to play baseball. But he might open a school, and then it's the person training there, or the coach might be some guy that really needs money and is hoping that he doesn't have to get a real job, and this is his job. But he's not going to be able to teach you all the stuff that Derek did to get to the level Derek Jeter was at, which is don't get thrown out of games, don't act like a jerk, all these things that were qualities. And I think that's a lot of it in wrestling is that I always tell people, like, ours is a beginner course, right? But I tell my wife when she gets people to sign up, like, if they have experience, let me talk to them first. And let me tell them, like, why they might want to still come to the school, even though it's a beginner course. By the time you get to week 6, you're really going to start shining now because you're going to be doing more in-depth stuff. But also, maybe you've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, and you're just an asshole, right? You don't understand the etiquette part and the business part, and maybe that's what's holding you back because you think you deserve something or whatever, right? And I think a lot of that is because the coaches just don't know either, because they've never, like the handshake thing about being loose, right? Like, to not be stiff. Maybe that was something in the 70s and 80s, but like ideally, like when I got to public school, we told us straight up, like, shake hands like a man.
Shake hands like a man, right?
Yeah, look them in the eye.
I used to think when they used to shake my hand like that, I was like, what type of winky, disrespectful handshake is this? Right. And then I found out I know how to work, brother.
Right, so like,
every fucking hey, that's all you explain to somebody.
Right. That's outdated now. But I just think that I was talking to these old timers and they were like, one of the reasons that everybody called each other brother back in the day is like they were like a family. They traveled together. There weren't that many plane trips. They partied together and all that. And they didn't know if that was the last time they're going to see you. And that's why they would shake your hand. But I just think shaking hands is like anywhere. You don't go to a job interview at motherfucking Starbucks and not shake the manager's hand.
Correct.
That's common courtesy and etiquette.
Just being in the zone, right? And that's something that I think a lot of people don't treat wrestling like an actual job. They treat it like wrestling, and that's because unfortunately, and again, I was guilty of it. A lot of the people that are running the local indies and this, that, and the other, they're just doing what they think is right. So they're calling everyone brother. They're shaking hands like a wimp. They're doing all of these things, and then like you get to the main shows, and you're like, "Hey, brother," and you're like, "I'm your brother, man. I'm your boss." And it's just like Billy Gunn. I love it when someone calls him brother at an indie show. Because he was never on the indie.
It's a funny song, brother. Hey, brother.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just one of those things of like, you just have to understand that you can treat it like a true business. And there are guys that do that, and they do really well. They just treat it like a business. The thing is, like, I'm one of them. If you treat it like it's your dream, man, people can walk all over you. You're going to let them because at the end of the day, like, I do extremely well.
You act like a mark, you get treated like a mark.
Yeah, and you just have to know that there is a... And the biggest thing with me was when I was a VP and a talent. Like, I would get to wrestle a guy like Keith Lee, who I know I could literally put together something with him that would wow the internet like crazy. But as a vice president, I knew what the goal was for that match. Right? The goal was to get Keith to the match with person X. And he's just going to run through me and I'm going to get a little bit of offense. And I could have pulled the card of, hey, I'm going to powerbomb you and I'll dive and you'll catch me and we'll get this is awesome chance. But that wasn't the job for me at that time. Right? And even though no one told me that wasn't the job, I just knew what the role was. So I did it. And I always told Tony when I came back, hey, if I'm going to start wrestling again, I'm not going to think like that. I'm just going to do what I got to do to get over. And he was like, okay, yeah, I understand. And I was like, all right.
Let me ask you a question because you bring up Keith Lee. Can you say or do you know what happened to him? I haven't seen him in a long time.
I feel like he got hurt. Okay. And then whether maybe he's just waiting to be cleared, I really have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, like...
Let me give you another name. Wardlow. What happened to him?
He was hurt. I don't know exactly what happened, but he posted something. So I know I'm not breaking any HIPAA violation. I believe he posted something on Instagram of his car being wrecked, which made him think like he got. And I asked him, you know. So and then also I think it's a matter of like, hey, what are we gonna do with him? And with Adam Cole not being there, that whole kind of situation.
I just think he needs Adam Cole, and I think being in there didn't really help him. But that's another.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was
let me ask you one more question. I'm sure there's other guys I could mention. What happened to Hobbs?
He did get hurt.
So all three of them got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt.
He's a knee, right? The moving the corner.
Yeah, with Moxley. Right?
He got
that's right. I think he hurt his knee. Yeah, I think it's just and unfortunately, again, that's part of the, as you were saying about, kind of simplifying your stuff. Well, granted, it was just him running to the corner, right? But like,
a lot of the injuries are like, they're accidents, but like, are they really accidents? It's like some of them are like, you're driving 75 miles an hour or 45 and you're weaving in and out of cars and you hit a telephone pole. That's like, that's an accident, but it's not an accident. You know, so that's what I think sometimes.
And that's kind of why.
They call it high risk.
Right, and that's why I really like. That's why I like being with Will, because and he loved it too. I mean, yeah, the internet gave us a lot of crap, but like, man, I was able to be ringside with him. One, he was like, he first started wrestling Penta and Phoenix because I see that, and I was able to help call spots to those guys, or you know what I mean? Like, two, I could stand ringside, and even one of the fans caught onto it, and he was like, "Oh, that's why you're a stupid manager." And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I'm not going to publicize that because, like, you know, like, Will is a tremendous younger talent, right? And he's younger in years in the ring, in experience. So, if I could tell him to slow down and tell him, like I said, hey, put your hands in the air, just get some heat, relax, you know, take a breath, go here, you know, I can also pivot, and it's like being a tag team partner. And that's, like I said, again, and I, you know, I go back to where people were saying how, you know, CM Punk didn't want me with him, and I was mad because I wanted to be on TV. It's like, if you knew me, you would know. The last thing I wanted to do was be somebody's manager. You know what I mean? Especially as I'm having this glow up and getting in shape and getting this push in Mexico. Like, I don't want to be someone's freaking manager. I want to be a fucking main event guy, right? But like, I'm gonna do what my boss asked me to do. So I'm trying to juggle being Hobbs' manager and trying to do a tag team thing with Morrison or Johnny TV, you know, like, then it became, hey, well, you're in this angle, you're in this angle. It's like, yeah, I'm just literally doing what my boss tells me to do, man. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not pitching stuff to myself. I don't care, you know. I'm just, I do all right, you know.
Let me ask you real quick before you get out of here. You grew up in Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Who are your sports teams here?
The Yankees.
Blue.
Yeah.
I'm a Braves fan, so I'm like,
the Yankees. Yeah, we just want the Yankees, and then like if football would be the Giants, but honestly, everyone laughs about this. If it's not the Yankees or wrestling, I don't know anything else. I couldn't tell you about any pop culture stuff. This is where I'm not in the loop. Like that big thing with Robert Downey Jr., where he revealed himself. I have no idea what that is. I just don't, you know. It got to be.
I didn't really know either. That's a comic book fan. I'm not even
right. Yeah, I have no idea. And like my wife, she'll get home and she'll be like, "You're watching this again?" And it's like the same match. And again, I'm watching it from this perspective. Like I'm trying to learn. Like at the end of the day, like this is
who are your favorites to watch? What's your
Shawn Michaels, but as one of, you know, I love, you know, as I used to be a huge Shawn Michaels fan. Whereas my brother was Bret Hart. And now I realize why. Like, my brother's job is working in computers. He's like a nerd. No offense to my brother. So, like, he really dissected the wrestling. I couldn't tell you what Shawn Michaels did. I just knew he was the coolest friggin' dude out there, right? Same with The Rock. Like, that was my guy. I couldn't tell you what he was doing. I just knew he was entertaining. And my brother is, like, probably like more of a smarter fan, even though he doesn't watch it anymore. I remember we went to I was telling Tony about this. We went to the Heart Attack tour, which was like right after Bret had won the belt again. And we went to the Meadowlands and they wrestled. It was him and British Bulldog. And then we went like a day later or 2 days later to the Garden. They did the same match. I had no idea.
Right. You know you're going to lose because he's the same man.
My brother was like picking out what they were. He was 11 or 12, and I was like, he ruined the show for me, you know. And like he just said, like, yeah, they're just doing this now. They're gonna do this, and I'm thinking, like, you remember that? And he's just one of those fans. Whereas, and that goes to the cars we both drive, right? Like I have a brand new Corvette, and I don't care if it's the 1LT, the 2LT. It looks beautiful. That's all I care about. It could drive like crap for all I care. It looks nice. Whereas my brother was like, yeah, my brother's like, well, I have this car because it does this, and oh, you're an iPhone guy? Well, I have an Android because it does X. And I'm just like, dude, I don't, like, at the end of the day, I'm all
said, he's nerd. Yeah.
I'm all into the show aspect of everything. And that's
so when they broke kayfabe by having the same match.
Yeah. It completely turned them off.
Okay, let me tell you when they broke kayfabe and I was like, what's going on here? Remember when Vince did that musical where the heels and the babyfaces together playing instruments? I was like, why would this guy be playing an instrument by this guy if he's a heel and he's a babyface? You know?
Yeah, so, you know what's funny is when we were younger, we used to get into like, I would play wrestle with my brother, and he's 2 years older, and my dad kind of told us what the gig was. So he like, you know, even when I was younger with Santa Claus, my mom kind of got rid of that whole thing because we're Jewish. Like, she's Jewish, so it was more or less like, hey, this is a gift from Santa from AJ's, which is the bar she worked at. You know, like, we kind of knew all the gimmicks, right? So, but he was like more, he knew it wasn't real. He was just offended that he made my mom buy these tickets. At 12 years old, he was offended by it, you know? And it just, that's, like I said, one of those things in wrestling where I think if you offend the audience, they will just, it's like anything. Like, I have no problem paying more for something if it's what I want, right? In the sense of my car, right? I just use that as an example.
Blow it up.
I have one. I had to pay a little more for it, but I got the car I wanted with the interior I wanted and all these things. Had somebody screwed me and I ended up paying more for it, I wouldn't want the car. And I think that's when you get a wrestling fan, they already know what the gig is, and then you kind of take advantage of them. They want to, like, oh, screw this, you know? I already knew that this wasn't real, and now you've just rubbed it in my face. Like, I can't pay for this anymore. And, you know, you can't have that, right? So I always tell the talents, if they can, do your absolute best to just make it make logical sense. Whatever that means to you, but just do it like you really mean to do it. If it's throwing a punch, throw the punch like you mean it, and do your best not to hurt the person. Which is why I think they do forearms, because they're not scared. And forearms hurt more than the big punches.
Well, the worst thing about the forearms, I try to tell people, bro, training people to do forearms, who's going to stick their head in front of a trainee and let them forearm the other side of the head and hope they do it right?
In the collarbone, in the chest, and I always say, like, if I give you a flipper, I'm going to do it, and it's going to be like Eddie Guerrero. Like, you're not going to get hit the face. I'm going to shoot the body, and it's going to make a pump, and, you know, if you have to slap my arm to make another noise, great.
Bro, Eddie and Benoit did it so great because they threw their whole body into it.
Correct. Their arm really never did. Right. These guys are standing there, they're hitting each other with a thud. Oh my God.
And they want to get the pop from the people.
Right.
And bro, CP is the real thing.
Right. Well, that's why I mean, I don't know if it's
we're going to get an hour and a half before wrapping up.
Okay, so let me just say this real quick. Bro, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show, because a lot of people from the AEW won't come on the show because they think we're going to ambush them or something, right? Hopefully, in the future, you know, maybe you can help me through PR or through you get some guests, because we're just here about asking questions, you know, like we just did with you.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, and the other thing...
Tell Tony I'm not a bad guy.
It's just trust, right? That's all it is.
Well, Tony actually told me this. I go, Tony, will you do my podcast? He goes, yeah, as long as Disco isn't there. Bro, he's harmless. Anyway, but please put over your camp, your wrestling school, your Twitter, whatever you need to put over, please.
Oh, I don't.
But, I mean, the school, people want to go to your school, kid.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
or they might want to fucking hit you up on Twitter.
Does it have a website?
It's just, NightmareFactoryGA.com. And it's very simple. It's literally just apply here. We have another camp in October. And then that's really it. We usually do every 3 months. But again, it's more for beginners. But if you have advanced, if you are trained, just know that it's not a job interview. We're not trying to get people jobs. We're trying to, teach you the fundamentals to go out there and become wrestlers, professional wrestlers that by the end have great etiquette, and the people that will book you will turn around and say, hey, you know what, their match, hey, they've only been doing this for 6 months. Man, that's a great person to have on your show.
What if people want to get a hold of you on Twitter?
Just QT Marshall. Or email qtmarshall@gmail.com. Easiest way to get a hold of me. I tell everyone if you want me to watch one of your matches, and I love watching wrestling. So I'll download some of his match on YouTube, and when I get on the plane, I got 3 hours to kill. I'd rather watch that than just.
Let me say this to the fans. If you do tweet at QT Marshall, please use the most vile and vehement language possible.
I love going back and forth with people, especially because, again, they're all experts. They know somehow they're not working backstage. They don't associate with the wrestlers, but they somehow know more than us. They know what we want them to know.
The smart, more classic fans have developed this arrogance that they think they know more than the people they've ever been.
Correct. That's even the annoying.
And then they wonder why I bury them. You know?
Yeah. I'm all for burying them. Because they have no idea
about to bury the marks. Yes, big fan. Hey, QT, this is part 1. Hopefully in the future, in a couple months, we can get you back on for part 2. We just started late because I had a meeting in AAA. But you know how that goes. But my friend, thank you very much. Congratulations on the NPC thing. Congratulations on everything that you're doing, and we're always your friend of the show now.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Disco, it was great talking to you. We'll figure it out. We'll do another one soon, all right?
All right.
Tell Ray I said hi.
I will, 100%.
Hey, tell Cody at some point, me, him, and Matt are going to have a King of Marietta match at some point.
Bro, I don't know if you know this. Disco lives near. He lives near Cody, and he wanted to go to his house and confront him. Remember?
Well, I know his job's up and down Old Camp Road, which is right in front of my house.
Yeah. He wanted to confront him, obviously, as a joke, while they were jogging. Yeah, which is great. But, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Take it easy, man. Thank you.
Be cool, my friend.
Building a business may feel like a big jump, but OnDeck Small Business Loans can help keep you afloat. With loans of credit up to $100,000 and term loans up to $250,000, OnDeck lets you choose the loan that's right for your business. As a top-rated online small business lender, OnDeck's team of loan advisors can help you find the right business loan to fit your needs. Visit OnDeck.com for more information. If anyone doesn't know that, your business loan will be issued by OnDeck or Throwback. OnDeck does not have the most available all members and non-participating.
With the Wells Fargo Active Cash Credit Card, you can earn unlimited 2% cash rewards on purchases you want and purchases you need. That means you earn 2% cash rewards on what you want, like season tickets to watch your favorite team, and 2% cash rewards on what you need, like paying for parking. That's the beauty of the Active Cash Credit Card. It's ready when you are, with unlimited 2% cash rewards. The Wells Fargo Active Cash Credit Card. That's real life ready. Terms apply. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/activecash.
Let's call out the obvious. Everyone wants to head into the bedroom with confidence, feeling like the best versions of themselves. But it's like a bloodflowsearch.com that's used to focus. Thank you. Question. Hey guys, Stevie Richards was talking. Oh, this is interesting, Joe. Did you read this question already?
I did, but I haven't watched the video. I'm interested.
Hey, Stevie Richards was talking on his podcast about wrestlers showing symptoms of CTE and mental decline. Said the best example of this was Raven. Stevie's co-host is the British guy who runs Wrestling Shooter. He's the same guy who continuously pushes the building misinformation about disco.
That's not misinformation.
It is misinformation. We even had Bill DeMott who confirmed it was misinformation. He said that the interview with Raven. He said that the interview with Raven had to be heavily edited due to Raven's incoherent ramblings and dead air. What do you guys think about Raven and his mental faculties and the clip? Play this clip, Joe. This is like time out. I want to make this is very interesting because this is now a situation very similar to the Joe Biden situation. Okay, where Raven's decline is being hit by Joe. And Joe is covering for Raven. Okay, there's a possibility because Raven. Have you ever brought up Raven's mental decline, Joe? Has it ever been an issue with you? Yes or no?
No,
but Raven has brought it up, and but I think Raven speaks with heat, and you guys would know that he does get distracted.
Who will be the judge of that? Put this up.
Okay, let's hear this clip. Who will judge it?
What percentage, in your opinion, you know, I'm sure you've been to conventions, a number of conventions over the years, you speak to some of the older guys, what percentage of the guys who are in their 60s and older, just by talking to them, do you think exhibit outward signs of CT or multiple concussion syndrome?
Well, there's older guys I haven't been to conventions for some time, but seeing some of the interviews and seeing the interactions, Raven will be on. Raven has been doing a lot, and we don't know if it's because of the drug use, the partying, or the other stuff. So it shows how in wrestling, Raven has completely sacrificed his body throughout his career, even before he became Raven. Like Johnny Polo, Scotty the Body, you know, all the things he did all the way back and forth to WCW, to WWE, and then of course ECW, and then Independence, TNA. Raven has been in some of the most violent matches, taking unprotected chair shots to the head, unprotected weapons to the head, blood, big bumps, all that stuff. So Raven, just because it's close to home, and I've witnessed and been around Raven for a very long time when he was, and he's still one of the greatest minds in the wrestling business. But I particularly saw the interview that you did with him during WrestleMania weekend release, and I could see, I was like, wow, he's still Raven, he's still Scott Levy, but in some of the effects, and I'm not going to put it on you, but you were there. Did you sense or feel any of that kind of, like,
now the interview is available to the right. Would you want to go through the interview a little bit?
I want to see Judge I thought it says here that
Isn't there an interview here?
It says right here, Joe.
Says it's 124 or something like that.
This is the clip that he...
Raven talks, the Raven talk starts at 124.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I had the interview to the right of what I'm saying. You want to see some of the interview to see what he's talking about?
Wait a minute.
This is just Stevie talking, what he said. This is the interview. Yeah.
Attitude Pro 11 is...
Dana Carvey? Looks like him, right?
Here we go. So I'm going to say I'm scroll through it a little bit. So here is Gordon. Here we go.
Came out, and the bartender goes, and the woman was in the bathroom, and then the bartender's like, no, they had it locked off. And like, why did you cipher that locked off? And then they were, you know, transition. Yeah. But somebody else didn't get home with them. But I didn't have anything against that. I just it wasn't my flavor. You know what I mean? I totally. On Sales MP says, what was that in your signs for full hate?
Terrible joke. Just.
Hey, Raven is definitely slowed down. However, I don't see any difference in him like the past 5 to 10 years.
No. And
I go back in time every once in a while. I go out to lunch and eat lunch with him, and I mean he's like that, but it's been like that for a while.
That's what I was going to say. He's not different from me, but I only knew him for 5 years or so.
Yeah, he's slower than before, but it ain't like he is lucid. He can't put thoughts together. You know.
Right. He's like the box that went a whole bunch of rounds, and like, you know, later on he's like, you know,
little punches. Yeah, he took a lot. And like Stevie Richards said, because Stevie Richards was with him on the road. We weren't. Well, we were, but he did.
You want to do this? Let's do it.
Sometimes, but Stevie Richards was kind of like with him all the time, right? Yeah, besides all the hair shots he took and all the wild shit, bro, he was one of the top partiers I've ever been. I mean,
Right.
I'd say, just real quick,
you think that's a Joe Biden